In July of 2024, a video made rounds on social media, one depicting a rare side of one known for her rare side, a different angle, perhaps. What is revealed in a few mere seconds is the saddest, most lifeless, soulless throwing of ass I have seen in my life. Operating on autopilot, a moment of internal vacancy through which ice escapes ice, but for a moment. This moment coincided with a series of controversies and rising criticisms, whether in good or bad faith, occurring at the cusp of what many might consider her inevitable fall-off. Whether it be an album that perhaps prophetically put its title on a literal trash can in the album art, or the adultery scandal that I couldn't care less about because I don't know these people, or the controversial choice to lose what arguably made her famous in the first place, the Doechii. It may not have been a financial fall-off, she was still getting her money, brand deals and all of that, but in the court of public opinion the attitude had begun to shift. The Ice Spice narrative highlights to me a lot of very interesting things about just that. The aesthetic value and conundrum of the Doechii.
Ass man? Oh no, these don't belong to me. I'm not the ass man. I think there's been a mistake.
My interest in artists mostly starts and ends in what is relevant to their work. I think art comes from, is influenced by, and is meant for people, but I have an allergy to speaking or speculating about people who I don't know. I'm not interested in telling you exactly why that look escaped from her face. But the Ice Spice problem reveals a larger issue that I've been quietly fascinated in for a long time now. Big butts and the throwing of them.
You are the ass man.
No, I'm not the ass man.
Twerking, dirty wine, bend that ass over, let your breathe, hands on your knees, hands on your knees. This video is not getting monetized.
Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house.
A lot of people have strong feelings about the shaking of the tuchus and the shakers of the tuchus. Some positive, some negative. But why? Why is the simple act of shaking what your mama gave you something that provokes, something that challenges, something that confuses? And what does it mean to have a butt? And what ought you to or not do with it? Does any of this matter at all? And what the hell are we doing here? Today I'd like to take you through yet another one of my brain farts, exploring the layered, perplexing topic of the joys, the horrors, the agonies, and the ecstasies of the art of booty shaking.
It's a dancehall thing.
Dancehall Queen is a 1998 Jamaican dramedy about a single mother from the inner city who finds her power through the shaking of her rump. Street vendor Marcia lives with her 2 children and brother Junior, relying on the seemingly affluent but very shady Larry for cash, in spite of the fact that he makes her teenage daughter, Tanya, very uncomfortable.
I don't want to see Larry again as long as I live.
What kind of foolishness is that, Tanya?
Him tried to feel me up.
Doesn't a man try to feel me up?
What are you suggesting, Mama?
That you just try to go along with the program as much as possible.
The situation is only further complicated by local badman Priest, who initially gets in a scuffle with Marcia.
Me say, I nah move.
Me don't know which part you come from, come here, so you know. But me know you got to go.
But it becomes dire when he comes back and as revenge, kills one of her friends.
Walk and live. Talk and bumbuckler dead.
He then intimidates Marcia, and especially her brother Junior.
What is your bumbuckler problem?
Murderer.
Now putting her entire family under his control as well. Intimidated by these 2 powerful men, Marcia finds herself trapped in a den of subjugation with nowhere to turn. At least that is until she stumbles upon the dancehall. Dancehall. What is dancehall? Dancehall is a genre of music and indeed culture spawned in Jamaica in the late 1970s as an offshoot of reggae. A dance hall, of course, is any space, room, hall, dedicated to dance, and dancehall, the genre, got its name from the emergence and necessary connection that the music has to this space, especially in the Jamaican context of these small spaces in the inner city at that time, in the 1950s through 1970s. What was characteristic to dancehall, especially in this earliest iteration, was the DJ who spun tracks, usually reggae tracks, which they would then dub, toast, or rap over. If you notice a certain parallel to a genre that would emerge in New York around the same time, it is because hip-hop and dancehall both have their origins in this space. In fact, the oft-cited pioneer of hip-hop, DJ Kool Herc, was Jamaican and cites his heritage as where his sound came from, which is why to this day there is this debate about whether hip-hop should be considered a Jamaican genre. That opens up a whole other world of questions I won't get into right now, but as a Jamaican who likes to take credit away from Americans whenever I can.
Look at the German, tune into Rasta sound.
What is notable about the origin of dancehall as it emerged as its own genre is the space and time that it did. The inner city during the late 1970s. This was a wild time in Jamaica, full of violence, political violence probably caused by the CIA when Jamaica was getting too socialist. The music always had a direct political connection. Reggae was the genre largely started and popularized by the Rastafari, a religion born from taking certain aspects of Christianity fused with Pan-African anti-colonialist thought.
How sweet they sing, oh how much I wish that I could fly.
The Rastafari have always been under attack by systems like the police, and they use their music to speak to their spiritualism and liberation from the oppression of what they call Babylon.
Of only vanity and no love for humanity.
Tune into Rasta sound. Tune into Baddies in the land. Cut more. Feet. Judge. Who say Jah no dread them a jester? Who say Jah no dread them a jester? That he wouldn't say that. Run it, yeah. You know see what go on, yeah. Babylon a try to fight down the righteous.
And the little that the poor man got, it shall be taken away.
Dancehall took the traditions of reggae, but rather than the direct religious underpinning of it, spoke of more secular, earthly pleasures, like money, power, and sex.
The music too loud!
The idea of someone like Marcia doing dancehall and whining and grinding in that space seemed so left field.
You ever wear anything like this, yeah?
No. For that thing, I will look good in it.
Me don't know about that.
I have to answer to you why I'm playing my music. But can it easy?
Since when did this become your music?
But there was a power in what they were doing in that space that spoke to her. When whining and grinding, the woman holds the gaze of everyone. The bombastic, colorful clothes they wore almost like a costume. Marcia made her way into the dancehall space, donning this alternative persona, one which our own Larry, who doesn't even recognize her, calls
Sexy bitch.
Using alternative personas and names to wield power you lack in any other form of life. Something I would know nothing about. Priest's intimidation of Marcia and her family turns into a twisted obsession with her.
Like your style, your kind of fire. Turn me on.
Something about that power he holds over her, I suppose, combined with the fact that she doesn't exactly fold easily. The challenge makes him feel like more of a man, maybe. Marcia seems to recognize this. Twerking is the most mainstream term because it's the American form of it, but dancing through the shaking of the buttocks is a tradition seen among the African diaspora because, of course, it goes back to Africa. In Jamaica we have wine, dirty wine, that's what you see Marcia doing. And in America you have twerking. That's what Ice Spice does. This form of dance comes from Côte d'Ivoire called mapoka, or the dance of the behind. But this name and origin only dates back to the early 90s. People have been doing this a lot longer than that. That's the trouble with African history, you know, so much of it isn't written down anywhere.
You call this twerking, but it was originally known as mapuka, which quite literally means the same thing. Mapuka, or twerking, has the power to remove stagnant blood from the uterus.
But maybe they didn't need to. This dance, where you just thrust your butt, had several uses, ritualistic and otherwise. In West African culture, dancing has always played a large role in religious ceremonies, celebration, just community, man. Dancing lifts life. I don't dance, at least not for others. I don't have a butt, but for butt havers, usually women, this dance that we call the booty shaking was used in these contexts, but when the colonizers came and the Africans arrived to the Americas, the cultural roles shifted too. Celebratory dances took on different meanings and cultural traditions were forcibly revised. That energy remained, but it was directed elsewhere. A lot of those African religions in the Caribbean had to contend with or were fused with Christianity. Languages were changed.
It's a call, I guess, of Europe and Africa.
They had to invent new spaces to dance and celebrate, in spite of Babylon. And when they danced, they were now seen by others. And names were created based on what was seen. What we call twerking it doesn't have to be sexual. If a person shakes their fanny, they're just having a good time. When they are seen, they're performing. They could be performing for any manner of reason, but depending on how the spectator sees them, the performance changes. When seen by a straight man, it becomes provocative. When seen by a white man, it becomes vulgar. It takes on meaning when others see it. Oxford only added twerking to the dictionary when Miley did it, in her own act of rebellion. It took on meaning when others saw it. Marcia makes her way up the dancehall ladder after going to a Beenie Man concert and finding herself in a little dancehall off with the established dancehall queen, prompting Beenie Man to announce an official competition to determine once and for all who is the true dancehall queen, for a cash prize. Through this alternative persona, Marcia's reputation flies and she conspires to use the competition to pit these two men pursuing her to go against each other.
That competition's supposed to draw plenty people. Why you don't meet me after the show?
Using what was once used against her femininity under patriarchal society, you know, her butt, and her poverty. She bamboozles these two men into getting rid of each other for her. She uses Larry to get rid of Priest, and uses the competition money to get rid of Larry. Her real persona does get out, but rather than stopping her, people are inspired.
That's Mama!
That's your mother!
Simple street vendor Marcia is a bad dancehall queen. That means that anyone can be a dancehall queen. The film ends with the titular song, Dancehall Queen by Beenie Man featuring Chevelle Franklin.
You think I'd want you? Now I know who you really are.
Marcia is still a street vendor, but she's had a little help, and now she has the respect of her peers. There is hope for her and her family now, and maybe some hope for the audience. Dancehall Queen is a fascinating one for me because I watched it for the first time for a course I was doing in my freshman year of university. But it was a favorite among all my female peers. Every Jamaican woman I've known who's seen Dancehall Queen connects to it in some way, even if they don't necessarily go for Jamaican films or think the acting is bad or the dialogue is atrocious. Dancehall Queen is clearly doing something special. It's become a film that's more interesting for me to think about than actually watch, because, and I've seen it now several times. I think I like it more on every rewatch, but, you know, it's still more interesting as a little intellectual exercise for me than an actual film. I think this is one for the Jamaican girls to speak to a few, maybe several things about Jamaican girlhood that I might just be detached from, though I am fascinated by it. So I have summoned you today because when I told you in December that I was working on a video about twerking, you expressed interest.
Yes.
How would you introduce yourself?
I am a Jamaican woman. Oh my God, woman sounds so old.
You're old, Jade.
I'm currently living in Europe, not having the best time of it, but also coming face to face with a lot of the best phrase I can use is culture shock. In the sense that I'm made a lot more aware of who I was before I came here, who I am now that I am here, and who I was in the eyes of my home country and in the eyes of not just the country that I'm in, but the continent.
As stated, hip-hop has its origins in a similar context as dancehall. DJ Kool Herc started what many call the start of hip-hop at a little party hosted in the Bronx in 1973.
Yeah. I'm from the Bronx, so like a lot of people, like I'm real classy and I'm pretty and da da da, but like I'm from Fordham, bro. Like
taking from his experiences in the Jamaican dancehall, introducing this style to this new context. But both of these traditions find themselves in the lineage of West African oral traditions of storytelling as well as dance. A large part of that tradition is bragging.
Tell me, how was your life as a youngster? Ruthless. My style as a juvenile, ran with a gang, slanged in the meanwhile.
The braggadocio of telling everyone why you're the man. You deserve to be here. You are that guy. Or, well, no, that's the thing. For most of this history, it has been that guy. Women in hip-hop and dancehall have an interesting position. Women in this space have been props, used to amplify the image of the male speaker. This is, after all, a part of what makes the man the man. It's just a part of the culture, you know, it's just the language, same as homophobia. A part of that braggadocious legacy for the very patriarchal space of hip-hop, and again, dancehall too, is how men are valued for their sexual prowess. The stereotype of the strapping, aggressive, goes back centuries, amplified during slavery, where all humanity was removed and the men were seen as objects of mindless physical and sexual strength. That image hasn't really gone away, and they've had to contend with it, embrace it even. It's very profitable. These traits are considered masculine in the West, and it's the hand you've been dealt. That was an aesthetic they had to own deliberately through their art. They had to prove their worth. They had to win their masculinity. When you do an act and you're seen, it becomes a performance. When you perform, you become an object. We're all objects. Humans are all objects. But some of those objects, I suppose, are given more dimension than others. You see people before you speak to them. You don't always get to speak to them. When in front of an other, the object becomes spectacle. Your body is seen before your personhood, and you enter the realm of ideas. In the eyes of the other, you are given meaning. Not personhood, but meaning. Black man is a hog, and the black woman is a bootay.
Hey, I'd know that tush anywhere!
You know, to go back to a medium I'm more familiar with, this can be seen in the early blaxploitation films. Shaft, the big bad sex machine to all the chicks. pimps like the Mac or Superfly.
When it comes to women, they come to him.
Gangsters like Black Caesar, Sweet Sweetback, a film which literally opens with the protagonist as a boy getting his cherry non-consensually popped by a whole grown-ass woman.
Got a sweet back.
Then becoming Negro Liberation Anti-Cop Sex Dynamite Superman. So much to unpack there. But a part of that image of masculinity is, you know, dominance over woman. From the lyrical content of this music to the music videos, women have largely existed in this space as objects to be owned and perform as a symbol of the artist's power. On the dancehall, the women in their elaborate fashion find their value in the eyes of the spectator, in the eyes of the men, in the eyes of the viewer. The dancehall queen is the one who gets approval from the audience and the attention from Beanie Man. Marcia wins the competition, and her happy ending is when she successfully profited off of the men. She has gotten rid of the two demons who haunted her, but her newfound money and fame is won by the attention she gets from this male-dominated space, and how she has gotten what she earned through the power she was able to wield within this space. Women entering this space have always had to contend with this image, even when they use it to their advantage, even when they wield power with it. The performer we call Ice Spice would start her rap career in college during 2020 after meeting record producer Riot, but she would only go viral for a video during the Bust It Challenge, introducing the world to her Spice. It would be then, in 2021, that she released her Bully Freestyle, also produced by Riot. A few more viral hits would grow into kind of niche social media TikTok rapper. We'll be talking about another one of those social media rappers momentarily. But it would of course be Munch.
You thought I was feeling you? That nigga Munch.
Released in the summer of 2022, which shot her into the mainstream, for better or worse. I remember when Ice Spice blew up. I think by then I had stopped pretending like I didn't like rap, but it was a while before I actually heard her music. All I was seeing was memes.
You thought I was feeling you? That neighbor a munch, neighbor a eater, he ate it for lunch. Bitch, I'm a fatty, I get what I want. Like
memes and big booty edits.
I didn't say she had a big ass. I yelled out the window and I said I'd know that tush anywhere.
Why would you even comment about her ass?
But it was so odd, you know. She was definitely blowing up and someone was listening to her music. But people were just kind of clowning her. Her music. People liked the other thing.
He was so obsessed with asses.
This man, you know what? You have an ass man. Larry, you are an ass man.
I am not an ass man.
You are an ass man.
I eventually did get into Ice Spice though, and I don't even listen to drill like that, you know. I like Ice Spice. I like her flow. I like the beats. I like Munch. I think it's catchy. Thought I was feeling you.
I can be down.
Ice Spice blew up in the era where I think, and many others I'm sure would agree, that female rap low-key has dominated the market. There's her, Flo Milli, Cardi, Meg Thee Stallion, Foreshadowing. It's honestly kind of jarring now looking back at how it was in the 80s and 90s when rap was really popping off. Like I said, women entering this space have always had to confront the fact that they were a woman entering this space. Whether they use their position as a woman to make very conscious rap like Queen Latifah, Lauryn Hill or Erykah Badu, or embrace their sexuality like Lil' Kim or Foxy Brown. Another blaxploitation film reference.
When Foxy Brown comes to town, all the brothers gather round.
I mean, hell, even the conscious femme rappers, both in their sound and their lyrics, always kind of rapped like they had something to prove, like the men were doing.
Who you calling a bitch? You ain't a bitch, you're a hoe. Here we go.
When your whole existence is an anomaly in any space, you're going to have to confront it and all the things in your way. The femme rappers are goated and they deserve to be here just as much as any of the men, and they'll let you know. The guys are goated and deserve to be seen as the men they are in this world. The white rappers, they can prove that they respect the culture if they feel like it. Ice Spice went viral after Munch, becoming a huge meme for her lyrics having the substantial content of dog water and her music videos being full of substance. I don't think this is fair. They're catchy enough, if simple, sort of AI-generated fam rap. Look at my ass. I'm a baddie. She wanna be me. Pee pee poo poo. What am I doing? But hey, it works. She got famous. She's hella rich now. She has an ass. She knows how to use it. The girls can be bad bitches for a few minutes. The menzies have their entertainment too. Ice Spice made it. She's the queen. She's the shit. You're the fart. She won. For a while.
I'll stand anything, and I will complain. Though this bitter cup I drain, I'll do everything for love, love, love. I'll work every day, spend my weekly pay, buying anything you say. I'll do everything for love, love, love. I will even crawl to you on my knees, although I know you're wrong. In the winter, if you want, I will freeze, because my love is strong. If you say you, I'll still follow you. You're the key to heaven above, yes. I'll do everything for love, love, love. I will even crawl to you on my knees, although I know you're wrong. In the winter, if you want, I won't freeze, because my love is strong. I will play the game, will be just the same. If it ends in joy or shame, yes, I do everything for love.
You think you're finding out something? Don't say I don't have an ass fetish.
Which is interesting. After years together, I'm just...
No, I'm not the deviant.
I didn't say deviant.
I've been wanting to make this video for years now. About Dancehall Queen. Because the questions it poses are so thought-provoking. But the topic's always been so daunting. What I've decided to do is anchor the conversation around that look that was on Ice Spice's face when she was associating with twerk last summer. But it's difficult because all of this is so close, but so far away. I have no bum to shake. I did not grow up going to know a dance hall, but I am familiar with a dance hall. It's everywhere around me, but off in the distance. Oozing from your neighbor's house. Whizzing past your enclosed car, blaring from the bar across the road. I hear it in the distance while I'm in the church. There's always a bar right next to the church. I'm in my room watching a true faux film or damn YouTube video essay at my neighbors having a party. I was not invited. I never quite liked being surrounded by a bunch of guys.
MOV, nigga. Money over bitches.
But there's a wall between me and the woman as well. A necessary collection of experiences I can't quite speak to. But I'm thinking all the time about all these people and all these things. Things always become interesting to me when they're at a distance. I never want to go to the dance hall or go wind and grind upon people, but I watched that film and I don't know how much I enjoyed it. but I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's very interesting. Then I watched this one video this one time from one of my favorite YouTube channels. Then it stopped being one of my favorite YouTube channels. Is today the day? Is now when I start beefing with people? The video was about a lot of things. But what I found so interesting, even then, was that I found myself fighting with people in the comments of all points on the topic of twerking. Is twerking art? The video was about degeneracy in art. A big red flag already. And there was a point when talking about the baseness of mainstream culture, some beef footage of our own Ice Spice twerking was shown, among other things. And when talking about the solution, elevating a standard of art, they showed some footage of kids doing ballet, among other things. I think there was a point to that video that was communicated very poorly.
However, the recognition granted by scholars to the rejection of established morals or religious laws inevitably shapes the perspectives of those who are not intellectuals. What is celebrated amongst postmodern bohemian types eventually permeates the lives of unskilled workers and welfare recipients.
Oh no, this is way worse than I remembered.
Those most in need of boundaries to improve their lives or beauty to provide hope for change. The outcome is moral, spiritual, and emotional poverty, an empty life of fleeting pleasures and prolonged suffering. Instead of empowering people to demand better standards, we simply brush it off like that doesn't matter at all.
A righteous anger flared within me. I called it out for being a tad racist, and found myself passionately defending the woman's right to shake her fanny.
Stop it! Leave that man alone!
I myself was shocked that I was doing that. I guess I finally been eaten by Big Woke. But as close, yet far as I've been from the dancehall, actually, the same can be said with me and ballet. I've told you a bit about my relationship with asses. Let me tell you about my relationship with ballet. As aesthetically opposite to dancehall as possible, ballet finds its origins in the courts of the 15th century Italian Renaissance. The art form would soon find its way to the French courts via King Henri II's wife, Catherine de Medici, okay, who would fund ballet festivals which included the dance, poetry, costumes, and song during the 16th century. Ballet would become a part of the opera and soon enough grow into its own form of narrative theatre throughout the 1700s to 19th century, then becoming a staple of the middle class to this very day. Actually, an interesting film to compare Dancehall Queen to is one of my favorites. The Red Shoes. Based on the Hans Andersen fairy tale, the film follows a dancer, ballerina, named Victoria Page, who finds success in a ballet company but has her wings clipped when she falls in love and marries the composer, who takes her off with him as he flourishes in his own career, much to the anger and dismay of the leader of the ballet company. I've always been more drawn to the theme of being caught between passions. Ballet is her whole life, and she can't imagine living without it.
Why do you want to dance?
Why do you want to live?
I don't know exactly why, but I must.
That's my answer too.
But this other passion gets in the way.
All the way down from London, I wondered if I'd find you here. Good evening, Mr. Craster.
She's left to make an impossible decision.
Tell him why you've left him.
I haven't left him.
Oh, yes, you have left him. Nobody can have two lives, and your life is dancing.
But there lies another angle of it.
For God's sake, leave me alone, both of you. Please, Julian, wait until after the performance.
Like Dancehall Queen, here we have the story of a woman trapped in this patriarchal society, which polices her every movement. If she goes off with her husband, she can't dance. She'll be a housewife.
If you go with him now, I will never take you back. Never!
Vicky.
Do you want to destroy our love? Adolescent nonsense.
And her own personal success in ballet is clearly held in the hands of Lermontov, this boss of hers.
Go with him. Be a faithful housewife.
It's interesting because while in Dancehall Queen, dancing is what Marcia finds and uses to liberate herself from the dependence of these two men, Victoria's problems are caused by her love of dancing. The power she finds in dancing is handed to her by this man, but without it she fades into the obscurity of being a housewife. Marcia's power also comes from men, though in real Anansi fashion, she pulls hacks to use their own power against them for her own advantage. Both of these women are dancers whose bodies are given value and held in the gaze of the male world. Both very different films stylistically, in their production, hell, even in their ultimate takeaway. But it's interesting to look at them in conversation with each other. I'm probably more acquainted with ballet than ass shaking. Not that I really liked it either, though. I mean, I have seen my share of ass.
I'm not obsessed with asses. Okay, asses. And what is that shit all over you? What you been doing? Scrounging around looking for asses? All under bleachers and say, oh, where's the ass?
But in a sort of physical, formal, spatial sense, I've been to more ballet recitals than I've never been to no dancehall. I don't go to Carnival. I've never been to Jovet. I don't go into those kinds of parties.
It's vulgar.
And all my female friends are neurodivergent nerds who are probably more prudish about this stuff than I am at this point.
So you bring her up in what they call the bourgeois American type society family. You know, you bring them up so they don't screw until they get married.
Ballet has become one of those symbols of proper society and cultural standard in the West. It's that thing those characters at the top of Fritz the Cat are talking about.
You take them to church on Sunday, you teach them all you can, what you think you can teach them about how to bring up a family, how you should look and act, and they send them to college.
My sister's done ballet basically her whole life. I used to do piano lessons, we both did. I never liked it. She loves her ballet though. Dancing is her thing. At those recitals, I'm reminded of why people do indeed live in Jamaica after all. It's just that they only go to these kinds of things. There is an inherent class, racial respectability thing associated with things like ballet. These things are supposed to instill a sense of culture and well-roundedness in your kids. Help them be proper. Petit bourgeois, small bourgeois. Not quite the capitalist elite, but acting as they do and conducting yourself as such as well. Why am I talking like this? Who am I talking to?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
Use your knife. A fork isn't enough when trying to eat. Use your knife to better cut the meat. It's a reference about 3 or 4 people on this planet will get. I don't know if any of them are even watching this. Boy, why you about to put that in the big video essay?
Boy is a white racist word.
I watched Good Times recently. Yes, I know, I'm literally 50 years late. Shut up! It's by Norman Lear. It's about this working class black family, and every once in a while there will be an episode where they're visited by some uppity 70s petty bourgeois type, and I'll feel like I'm being personally attacked.
How do you do? I'm P.J. Hewitt, president of Hewitt Trust and Savings Bank. Assets over 10 million.
I put on this sort of pseudo Orson Welles super perpetual voice for this channel here. It makes me sound smart, maybe, but it certainly makes me feel smart. Nobody talks like this. Nobody should. People have complained about how I have talked on here in the past, so I've tried to accommodate. But I've started carrying this voice into the real world, you know. I don't know if it makes me sound smart, but it makes me feel like I know what I'm saying. Makes me sound real proper.
I told you 21 years old ain't nothing but trouble. I ought to drop it.
Oh, Jack. College theses can't be dirty, can it?
No, I interviewed a cross-section of ghetto residents and asked them about their sexual behavior.
I look like this guy, don't I? Oh god.
Right on, my brother. Power to the people.
When I watched that damn video, I got into some discussions about all this with many people. And someone brought up the point that comparing twerking and ballet as art forms is particularly silly because twerking is something people do for fun, usually just with their friends or at a party, or on the dance hall. It can be performed and often is, both in its original forms and of course today in the world of commercialized music, but ballet is an art form that was created for performance. You train to do ballet. There are particular movements and ballet performances that are usually narrative in nature. It is, after all, a form of European theatre. Ballet was made for a performer to deliver a particular narrative to a spectator. And again, you can do all of that with booty shaking, but it isn't necessarily the point. Not in an essentialist way. The idea that one form is healthy and proper, and the other is more degenerate, more base, more primitive, is simply wrong.
It is art, it is a type of dance, and it is also a very difficult type of dance, anatomically. Honestly.
And dangerous. It's different. These are whole different languages, different disciplines, whole different cultures, whole different frameworks of understanding, and just juxtaposing them uncritically cuts through many material factors that have shaped the place they hold in culture. How they reach those places. Why is it that we have these perceptions of these cultural signifiers in the first place? It is interesting to compare these films, though, to see precisely that. The differences in how a very similar theme is engaged with. Why they approach their stories the ways they do. The Red Shoes is British, and Dancehall Queen is Jamaican. Maybe that's why there can be any comparison at all, but it's in all those little differences, you know. In the production, something that I feel should go without saying, one has a higher production than the other. One can only be watched on YouTube and not in the best quality. You really have to hunt for a copy that isn't bludgeoned by copyright-induced random silences and skipped scenes. The other is preserved by several film registries. Hell, I have a Criterion copy. It was the first Criterion I ever bought. Within the narrative, The Red Shoes is a tragedy. Very Greek, very Shakespeare. It's about a form of theatre, and it's a loose adaptation of another European fairy tale from the 19th century, and the fantastical visual elements and color direction reflect that. However, while Dancehall Queen bears a lot of that Western influence as well, it's also very Caribbean. Dancehall Queen could be read as a loose adaptation of another fairy tale, Cinderella. Almost a deconstructionist Cinderella, maybe, where she becomes a princess, dances with the prince, and kicks him out of his damn castle. I mentioned Anansi earlier, a famous Jamaican, Caribbean, West African folkloric figure who uses trickery and deception to make his way through inconvenient circumstances. It's very musical. While it's not like Jamaica invented musicals, I spoke earlier about the role that music and dance have in African diasporic art, and since the first Jamaican feature film, The Harder They Come, music has always been a prominent central theme in almost every major Jamaican film. There are all these elements coming together and disparate, and there are all these webs of cultural connections but also necessary points of disconnect. That's the problem with talking about setting standards, you know. Whose standards are we talking about? What does that even mean? They've made videos since confronting all the fascism allegations. This one was a lot better at articulating what I thought they were trying to say. I actually rather liked it, though I do still think they're a bit confused. Which is why I am not starting rap beef with House of Tabula. I'm sorry, you damn vultures who are into that kind of thing. In spite of how much it stuck with me, that video is very old now anyway. It's out of the algorithm. I just wanted to get a lot of that off of my chest, and perhaps educate some other people who may not be able to see exactly what was wrong with that analysis. I don't know if they're watching, there's a chance. But I also suspected that the people in my audience, especially anyone who's made it this far into the video, don't necessarily need me to go into all that. And yet... For this essay, I listened to some Lady Saw.
I wonder where some gyal are study round here. See them argue over man where them a share.
Lady Saw is one of the OG, most iconic early female figures in dancehall. Also very controversial, probably for the same reasons.
It's vulgar.
Her debut album, Lover Girl, was confusing to me. At first, she'll make these very political songs about peace and love and pacifism, like Love Is What We Want,
Peace and not world power. This is what we want to fight for every hour.
and heads of government.
Are you blind? Why you no one just open up your new eyes and give the poor people a blind? Look,
Then she'll talk about getting her back blown out with songs like Babyface.
your body a mad me to the max. Me can't concentrate. Me stand yam out of me glass them and drink out of me plate.
Hardcore.
And we want it, baby. Gymnastic, acrobatics, slide back boogie. Any way you want it, me have it. What me say?
And then she'll talk about God and the love of God. It felt so all over the place. At first, I remember, you can tell me if this is still the case, but I remember femininity always being a big theme in your arts.
It was definitely something that remained constant throughout the entire evolution of my art through high school.
This question might seem a bit broad, but I'm going to narrow it down. How would you define femininity, or at least how it finds itself in your work?
A sense of beauty, a sense of duality. First, there's beauty and grace, and on the other side, there's strength and almost some sort of shield or wall.
I'm super into like just speaking it into the world.
Manifestation. You're mastering manifestation.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? I learned about that when I was like 11.
Wow.
So I know it's super trendy and cool now, and like people are over the word manifestation, but
are they? They're not manifesting.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I'm super into that, and like I'm real spiritual and I believe in God and all that, and I just pray all the time, and like, yeah, it works.
Jamaican culture is so fragmented for such a small place. There are these entirely different factions. I call myself Petit Bourgeois, which is not entirely wrong, but it's not quite as simple as that. For elementary school, I went to a private school. All those kids were rich, very upper class. That was my childhood, and I frequented those spaces in the way that a child would. You know, nothing heavy, just little pool party stuffs, arcades, an event every now and then, of course, ballet recitals. So many white people. I was also very acquainted with the working to lower class via my church in the inner city, and all the people and families I knew because of church. I'd go to things in that orbit too. All religious. When I went to the kids' houses and everything, you know, we'd watch TV, bootleg DVDs. Wasn't going to no dancehall though. That music is vulgar and demonic.
Full of funky fever, a fire burns inside me. Boogie got me in a super trance. Blame it on the boogie. Quincy Jones said that when he finished this song, he couldn't stop dancing. He ran out in the street and he was dancing uncontrollably.
The devil has always used music as a cue to bow. Be careful, young lady, what you let yourself listen to. Careful, young man, what you allow in your earbuds.
I'll give him some information from the Holy Ghost.
But at the same time, I think the puritanical church thing is just as Jamaican. It has to be. Caribbean people created Obia, but no one's scared of Obia more than Caribbean people. I haven't left Jamaica in almost half my lifetime, you know. I must have been somewhere.
If the shadow of the cross is against our heart, it'll destroy us.
Well, the cross is only an implement of torture. Its shadow is the darkness it casts, you see. Nothing can survive the shadow.
Isolation I felt in the church when everyone jumps and kicks and screams strange words is the same one I felt at parties or when jumps and kicks and screams strange words. They've never looked too dissimilar. I'm not sure the line is as rigid as all that. They're the same, I think. At least the way we do it. The church is Jamaican. The newer version nerd girls, they're Jamaican too. The Petit Bourgeois. Hell, even the ballet. They're here, you know. They exist here. The Jamaican poor wouldn't exist without the Jamaican wealthy. They'd both be in trouble without the Jamaican middle class. That's terrible.
Please understand us, Mr. Aiken. Our church isn't against dancing. We just won't have them on Sunday night.
Trigger warning, I'm about to talk about religion again. I can't not.
Get up, time for church.
In spite of everything, the past year has actually grown my appreciation of the black church. And it's actually... it is because of that guy. I don't know, sometimes I just want organized religion outlawed from the planet. Like, whenever I try to talk about Palestine, and I'm reminded how little most of these people actually think critically about the things they believe, when they start talking about how the they-thems are trying to take over the world. I have a lot of damage because of that place. But when I look over the shore, and see how many churches over in America have lived up to the end-time narratives, and knelt to worship the man who could biblically be described as the Antichrist, I get curious as to how we haven't quite done that. I mean, besides my grandfather. Our whole existence is against the idea of objectivity. We are necessarily contradictory. We have a different material, lived reality than the ones who came up with all these rules. We have all these different cultures, ideas, and iconography ingrained into our culture by default. We outside of Africa aren't quite African. We're African-American, we're Afro-Caribbean, we're African-British, we're Afro-Asian. And even those in Africa have had their lands imprinted by the legacy of the benevolent or not so benevolent visitors. There's nothing objective about us and our identity at all. I mean, there's nothing objective about white Christianity either. Which is a great contradiction because that and all the other Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, were also very Muslim. They were birthed from these different takes, perspectives, cultures, interpretations that have been developed over the years. However, the Europeans and their descendants in the United States with their ancient-ass buildings can at least put up the pretense, build a little fantasy of objectivity. Those buildings have been around for a long time. They're the ones who developed these languages. English is an English word. It is truly uncanny the amount of times I see the most horse-headed evil comment somewhere like Twitter or Instagram, and as I check the bio, the first thing I see, Christ is King, cross emoji. Like, truly, impressive how vile those people often are, or at least the ones I'm exposed to. But what do you expect in a place like that? I should really stop going over there. But it's less toxic. Coming across these people, I realized there's something fundamentally, foundationally different about the whole function and structure of the Christian tradition in those spaces compared to over here. I feel like they're trying to uphold something that represents some narrative of objectivity and nationalistic pride, whereas over here it's more complicated, I think. Hope, maybe. Also tradition, certainly everyone's still scared of gay people. I feel like Christianity is not so much a foundational thing to our sense of self as it is over there, but, well, I suppose it is, but in a different way. As opposed to defining us, it's a part of us. It connects us. It describes us, definitely. It's there. It's how we reach each other. I want to do more things, and not agonize over this stuff anymore, but for every church you stumble across, there will quite literally be one at every corner, there will be a bar just down the road. These contradictory ideas, these contradictory cultural signifiers, are necessary for the other's existence. It's so anti-objective, yet here it is. It's all true. Equally at the same time.
Who I am, you know, has nothing to do with, you know, the hair and the shoes and stuff, even though I like shoes. I mean, I find there's a lot of power in prayer. So I pray for the people who don't understand me. And I tell you, to be honest with you, I pray more now to be understood. No, excuse me, to understand than to be understood. I pray now to learn how to love than to be loved. Because God has given me an abundance, so, you know, I don't need God. These people don't understand me. They think I'm crazy. Every time I'm on the mic, they just, you know, it's not about that. I pray that I understand them so that I can talk to them, minister to them even more. You understand what I'm saying?
But like, you'd always draw characters that were very thick, but also very strong. And like, they were like these warrior type, you know, I know you do your fantasy stuff. Certain people would ogle at them and, you know, kind of sexualize them, and you get real mad. At that time, my mind has changed, but at that time I always thought that was very strange because they're so thick, you know, people are going to look at them a certain way. Do you think the meaning or the context of your pieces could change when they're in the eyes of the viewer?
Yes, they can, and I think not just my pieces, but pieces in general. I think that that's a part of not just art, but stories, all forms of art, visual, present a different set of lens, to use the previous example. But at the same time, we also have a construct called society that exists, and that has a huge effect on the vast majority of lenses, or at least the quality of those lenses.
I listened to Lady Saw and I was initially confused because truly in spite of myself, I come to expect a certain structure, a certain arc, clearly definable politics, a clearly definable person. But I am instead met with the spectrum of the existence of a black woman in Jamaica. Or maybe just Lady Saw. But I don't know her. I know her art, and even then, just so much. It confuses me how she will talk about how much she loves taking cocky, and then talk about how much she loves God. Then I have the gall to commit blasphemy with this whole conversation, and still feel funny saying the word cocky. How much of the existential torment and anxiety that I find myself in every day is born from exactly that. Detached, but always observing. We're out here trying to define ourselves, finding new methods. If you don't define yourself, someone else will do that for you. But when you define yourself, you flatten yourself. You necessarily take on different words that might only describe, but in a world of images, you're seen, treated, and situated because of those words. Then those other people with their loud voices, it's only when they speak that people hear. All these words, man, all these images. The African in the land of the colonizer, the woman in the land of the man, naked, shivering, washed up on the beach, the dancer and the spectator. The sacred wouldn't exist without the profane. The slave wouldn't exist without the owner. The white wouldn't exist without everyone else. If an ass shakes in the forest, and no one's around to hear it, does it clap? Oh, I hate this.
Stupid, regressive whores should have their mouth washed out with holy water.
After listening to Lover Girl, I went on to Lady Saw's next album, Give Me the Reason, and my pearls were clutched even tighter.
Want to know what slackness is? I'll be the witness to that to not come off on my back.
At this point, she has earned a reputation as this transgressive, nasty woman who makes obscene songs and is actively poisoning the youth for talking about how much she loves penis. In this new album, she doubles down and starts the spice from the jump, as if penning these lyrics just to spite polite society.
Life without dick would never be nice.
What is Slackness? The second track of the album breaks the subtext and directly critiques the Jamaican government and bourgeois society head-on for complaining about how she's this bad influence on the kids for talking about sex. Meanwhile, they run the country into the ground, allowing for all this financial instability and crime.
Society a blame ladies off the system them create. When culture did a clap, them never let me through the gate. No, as we say sex, them want to jump on me case, but pick the beam out of your eye before you chatting on my face.
An all too common phenomenon. Lady Saw is just speaking her truth. She's having fun. She's doing what she's doing, but because of her position, she becomes a symbol that rejects the politics of respectability and the celebration of that which is crass. Recognizing this, she doubles down. Alright, that's enough Jamaican lore. Let's go back to your American stuff, shall we?
I said certified freak. 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word. Make that pull-out game weak.
Every other year, a woman or sometimes gay man releases a song that the morality police are convinced will literally unleash hell on earth and send all listeners to the big soup on the spot. I was not sentient for Lil' Kim and her album, which literally opens on her making love while a guy is pleasuring himself in the background. The first big sex panic song I experienced in my sentience was maybe Anaconda. I was about 11 at the time and had just really started using the internet. My brain was only beginning to process a female buttocks as anything besides the old poop factory.
You are the ass man.
No, I'm not the ass man.
Nicki Minaj in the Ice Spice narrative is another important figure. Nicki is a US-based Trinidadian rapper who entered the mainstream in the early 2010s. Someone whose lyrics were empowering to women, but, or perhaps, and were very raunchy.
Depleted your wealth, and I'm not masturbating, but I'm feeling myself. Now don't you feel real stupid? Yeah, that's egg on your face. If you wasn't so ugly, I'd put my dick in your face.
Anaconda became the anthem of big booty women, possibly defining the meta that shaped the 2010s, where big asses were the thing, to the point where even the culture vultures decided to cash in.
When I first heard about Kim's tape, as her mother, I wanted to kill her. But as her manager...
Big booties have been a trait traditionally attributed to black women, like those anacondas to black men. From the earliest days of colonialism, their bodies have been reduced and used for the spectacle of the white gaze. See Sarah Bartman, who was taken from her home and literally paraded for display in Europe as a sideshow attraction in the 19th century. A freak show. This image hasn't quite gone away. But like how the men in early 80s and 90s hip-hop sought to reclaim hypermasculinity and gangsterism, Nicki is taking this image and making an anthem in celebration of big booty bitches.
I wanna see all the big fat ass bitches in the motherfucking club.
Nicki taking this image was a statement of reclamation, and from there, big butts became cool. Now having no ass is what people get shamed for.
If you're not comfortable with popping your ass, all I want is your hands. Boom, 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 boom. But if you can, get in that shit.
Ari was indeed ahead of his time.
I am not an ass man. You are an ass man.
In 2021, the music video became the first by a solo female hip-hop artist to hit 1 billion views. She won. For a while.
Santa sleigh, bring the gifts. Santa sleigh, bring the gifts.
I was also sentient for equal rights.
Bumper to your forehead. Show me what your tongue can do.
I think I knew what that meant. In a genre so dominated by male artists talking about women as objects to be conquered to bolster their own image, where bowing to the punani is a sign of weakness, submission, defeat.
What, Rasta? How come him always give you more dumpling than I? What?
Reese, every time you come with them fuckery, I want to hear.
Dancehall artist Ishana, taking the popular title of the absolute goat Peter Tosh's song, talk about how much she likes getting her kitty cleaned, became a statement of rebellion. Peter Tosh, one of the most iconic and politically oriented reggae artists' song Equal Rights and Justice, is about seeking justice even at the cost of peace. That those at the top must be dragged down for there to truly be any equality.
And equal rights.
Handouts aren't good enough. We need justice. Ishana, making the dancehall hit of the year, applies this principle to the bedroom, where women are reduced to objects who serve a man and their whole sentience and desire is removed from them. She demands that the man be dragged down from his position. If you want to get, you better be willing to give. Give a munch. You'll find this a common trope that happens. Whenever a woman makes a song where she talks about having some sort of libido, it becomes discourse.
Beat it up and catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard.
Even the white woman, my girl Sabrina, can't be a little bunny rabbit freak without the old people clutching their pearls. In a case like hers though, Sabrina takes the aesthetics of the sort of precious Caucasian little farm girl and talks about all the different positions she likes. It's a subversion of tropes. The white woman is the doll. She's the precious thing to be protected by the white man. When she acts out of line, she's possessed, she's corrupted. You expect that of other women, but not your precious whites. Going back to the Christian nationalism thing, it's the Madonna whore trope. She's either a precious virgin who ought to be protected and owned, or a fallen harlot here to lead God's men astray.
And now, back to this bitch that had a lot to say about me the other day in the press. Miley, what's good?
Miley, whether deliberately or not, took something. She stole it.
I don't pay attention to the negative because I've seen this play out so many times. How many times have we seen this play out in pop music?
And used it to deviate from her role.
You know now. You know what's happened. Madonna's done it. Britney's done it. Every VMA performance, anyone that performs, that's what you're looking for. You're wanting to make history. Me and Robin the whole time said, you know you were about to make.
I said it's kind of like Madonna out of Africa. You know, it's like report from the front. I went into the jungle. I fucked all those black men. And I used black culture in my videos.
She's since admitted that it was a phase.
Had you fallen in love with hip-hop? Like what?
Yes, because all my friends, that's all we listened to. Because it was, if you guys just go back into 2011, 2012, 2013,
yes,
that was rock and roll, soul music. It's like, it's something in your soul. And so for me, hip-hop at the time was like my soul.
But her no-ass-having self stole something to bolster her own career and image. Then they added it to the dictionary.
I used to kind of like black people, but I'm not sure I do anymore.
Every woman is under attack. But with the case of black women, female rappers, and dancehall artists though, especially the dark-skinned ones, it takes on another weight.
Since a chicken lays eggs, it's worth dollars, so it is not surprising that this crudely drawn chicken looks frightened.
Women are seen in patriarchal society as less of a sentient three-dimensional human than men. And under white supremacist colonial society, black people are seen as less of a sentient three-dimensional human than white people. That's 2 levels of removal from complete humanity. 2 levels of removal from personhood. Everything said and done takes on new weight because it is further flattened by the images created by the other.
I feel like to one degree or another, art has political impacts and implications even if you're not trying to pack it in there. If you're not trying to work it in there. Right. I mean, this will be like a really kind of silly example, but I think on some level, I think inadvertently Sexy Red is maybe one of the most political artists like in the hip hop industry right now.
I'm looking for the hoe. Yeah, shake that ass. Where they at? Shake that ass. Where they at? I'm looking for.
Jay, do you know Sexy Red?
Yes, unfortunately I do.
Sexy Red is a performer who sparks outrage due to how she presents herself. On her own, she's just doing her thing, rapping about throwing her ass and being a bad bee. But due to her body, due to the understood tropes of the industry, she can be said to embody a collection of stereotypes that someone like Mr. Wet-Ass P-Word might use to propagandize his audience about the degeneracy of those people.
I'm out of town, thuggin' with my rounds, my coochie pink, my booty hole brown.
Hey man, that was a hella introduction because usually people will see you and it's like, oh, you know, hey, my name is Sexy Red, and you try to learn about people, but immediately we knew that your coochie was pink and your booty hole was brown.
She's just doing her thing, But because she lives in the body that she does, because she speaks how she does, she takes on a role in the world stage that seems to spark an opinion from just about everyone.
Like, there's something so deeply social and political about a lot of her music and her music videos and the way she conducts herself, because there are so many pressures and expectations on black women to conduct themselves in a certain way. I'd even say on some level that she too is reacting to like a pressure to confine herself.
Sexyy Red, for her refusal to conform with a role seen as respectable, whether through deliberate aesthetic subversion or thoughtful black femme consciousness, merely becomes ratchet.
Do people think that you loud or turn? Yeah.
I'm only like that with my friends. If I don't know you, you're not gonna get all that out of me. You just gonna get she mean or she's shy, she quiet.
They've been talking about what they want to get out of a woman for a long time, but when the woman does it, it takes on a different weight. The trouble is, though, they're still objects being seen. A woman talks about what she wants. We still hear about her wet-ass P-word. We see her buns. She still shakes her ass, knowing that she's desired by the viewer, retaining a level of control that she didn't used to have, but she's still being seen.
Being in the music industry is fun. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's a little ghetto, but it's fun. Like, especially...
People have a lot of ideas about black men and women and their sexual deviance. Are people shocked when you tell them where you're from?
Yes, I can see the club lights dancing behind their eyes every time.
Men are always supposed to be sexually aggressive, and if you're black, you're supposed to be that and then some. Black men have, as discussed earlier, had to carve out that image for themselves to assimilate into their society. We are objects, we might as well be good at what we do. Use the images people have of us to move up the ladder. All humans are objects, but some objects are seen and used by others. Some objects are more equal than others, I guess. All objects are worth money.
Off to the right is some pork dressed in a top hat and monocle. Basquiat probably copied this picture from a comic book or animated cartoon. The pig may look sophisticated, but he better not forget that he's 100% pure meat, and that means he's worth money.
Ice was discovered through the shaking of her tuchus and has since used that to follow in the lineage of bad bitch energy female rap artists. Like her predecessor, Nicki, she tells the world about her ass. She's thick because she be eating oats. The voyeur is a munch. The bitch thinks she the shit, she not even the fart. I be going hard. I hate this. I don't talk. I don't.
Where's the N-words? I'm looking for the hose.
Right on, my brother. Power to the people.
Fake ass Angela Davis.
But it was around the time Sexyy Red started popping off, and Anthony Fantano gave that one record a whole 8 out of 10. People didn't like that either.
I feel like I'm the most hated female rapper. Like, they hate on me the most. I get a lot of love, but I know when they be hating on me. They be hating on me. It be like little inside shit. I be like, they hating on me.
Except the brand of misogyny that Sexyy experienced and has been experiencing was unique. She's everything wrong with black culture. This is what's setting us back. But Sexyy was always sexy. She shakes that ass. She talks about stealing girl men. Essentially the same things as Ice, but I don't know.
Like, I'm real classy and I'm pretty and da-da-da, but like, I'm from Fordham, bro.
Let me establish something. Ice Spice is black. She is black, and so is Drake. Ice and Sexyy are both black. Like how Gina and Pam and Martin are both black.
Damn, how long y'all gonna be gone? A month?
Well, we got to take our food with us, Pam. Everybody can't chase down deer like you, baby.
I don't know. One is always the butt of jokes and the other is the show's love interest. We're not even gonna touch Shanae right now.
Oh my goodness. If it isn't Little Miss Attitude.
But what you'll find with Ice Spice, Sexyy Red, and Drake is that they all get clowned. They do all get money though.
The pig may look sophisticated, but he better not forget that he's 100% pure meat, and that means he's worth money.
Ice Spice, as mentioned before, was already kind of a meme, you know. You play her songs on mute.
Because, you know, that's almost like a compliment. You know what I'm saying?
I get those a lot, so I'm just
You get
used to it
compliments
all the time.
What's a compliment to you?
At least she's pretty.
But people really started to lose off of her as time went on. I bump Ice Spice tracks every now and then. Princess Diana has given me a good workout many a time, but I don't know. It does lose steam after a while. And for Sexy, I listen to her stuff too. You know, now that I'm in love with her, I've gotten some good workouts there too. But in Sticky, when she says,
I don't fight for my respect, bitch, I fight for dick.
I believe her.
I'm not even like that.
She says that with her whole chest. People actively tell Sexy to stop, but she does it anyway.
Cause I felt that I kept saying, "Yeah, I'm telling you this is it," and they didn't believe me. I had to keep going back and forth with them because you heard Pound Town, my coochie pink, my
right.
Yeah. They was like, "You not we're not even gonna drop it." Like they like, no, this is bullshit.
Hey man, yeah,
I said they gonna like it. Trust me.
I think she just likes it. I don't know. I believe her more.
Firmly believe that art and life should be held separate, especially when real people are involved in creating said art.
She's not trying to be some great revolutionary. She's not trying to do anything crazy. She just wants to be, man. And she's lifting up other girls who are done fighting for respect. Maybe just want to shake that ass, bounce on some I don't know. And I do mean that. I truly don't know.
Yeah. They be coming up to me like that, and I don't like that.
But I guess she's getting her money anyway. What am I trying to prove? In July of 2024, a video made rounds on social media. One depicting a rare side of one known for her rare side. A different angle, perhaps. What is revealed in a few mere seconds is the saddest, most lifeless, soulless throwing of ass I have seen in my life. Operating on autopilot, a moment of internal vacancy through which ISIS escapes ICE, but for a moment.
You have to always be like you're on because you never know when the camera's going to be in there.
Sometimes they catch me lacking, but for the most part, I'm like, the cameras are on.
This moment coincided with a series of controversies and rising criticisms, whether in good or bad faith, occurring at the cusp of what many might consider her inevitable fall off. Whether it be an album that perhaps prophetically puts its title on a literal trash can in the album art, the adultery scandal that I couldn't care less about because I don't know these people, or the controversial choice to lose what arguably made her famous in the first place. The Doechii. Ice Spice losing weight was interesting because as someone who, in spite of everything, does believe in Ice Spice, I wanted to see where she'd go from here. I don't know why she lost weight. I don't know if it even should be any of our business, but her body was a part of her art. And people noticed. People commented on it. Especially after that video, but I was fascinated. Perhaps a rebrand, perhaps a new direction. But the endless barrage, the endless sea of ridicule reminded me, perhaps reminded Ice, just how much her entire image, her entire career, her entire being as Ice Spice is tied to the gaze. She lives and dies in the eyes of the viewer. I don't know, I was hoping she'd use that new image to jump onto something else, a new chapter, a new arc, some interesting, unique direction in her career. But that didn't quite happen. Ice Spice, raised in mockery, faded in mockery, her bluff called, her image scrutinized, and her career uncertain. But this year did see the rise of another female hip-hop artist. Must have been an angel by my side. I first heard about Doechii because every black person I follow on social media was losing their mind over her new mixtape, Alligator Bites Never Heal. I took note of it and saved it on Spotify to listen to later, but it would only be when Tyler's festival Camp Flognaw came that she returned to me.
Nigga, I'm back like a Chucky block from the afterlife. Nothing nice, this ain't Antichrist, it's a bloody night, bloody.
I saw maybe 30-second clip of her performance of a song I would find out was called Spooky Coochie. I was transported into another galaxy.
By the time you hear this, I'll have taken on another form. The way I've been snapping, y'all go end up my children of the. I think I've adapted to all of the cannibal savages. I feel a possession in a session. I need a Catholic to assess it. Come in.
Not only did the song go hard, but this girl was rapping on that stage, no backtrack, hitting every line like her life depended on it, all while commanding the stage. I immediately wanted to kick myself for sleeping on the goat for this long, rebuking my unchecked misogynoir, and immediately reaching for my Spotify. But before I could delve into the rest of her music, I went into the comments, and everyone was talking about her ass. The rise of Doechii, coinciding with the fall of Ice Spice, was so interesting. They had a past, you know. There is lore there, and unlike the nonsense with fellow culture vultures Central C,
We can go gut for gut.
Fuck that, we can go wrist for wrist.
19 bucks to the fortnight cod.
Double pump with the phantom tanks.
this has everything to do with the art. Let's talk about the Swamp Princess. Doechii's been doing her thing for a good decade already, writing poetry and rap lyrics from she was in high school. She's been uploading to her YouTube channel from that time too, posting vlogs where she just talks about whatever's on her mind.
Now, before I tell y'all about my first fight, don't think that just because of this story and I'm weak, I will get with you.
Luckily, the videos are still all there. She just like me for real. Do not, and I mean do not scroll too far on my Instagram. But you can see, even from back then, Doechii's always been doing her thing, expressing herself and talking very candidly about any and everything she cares about. Something I wouldn't know anything about. She started posting her stuff to SoundCloud back in 2016, but it would only be in 2020 that she produced her first EP, Oh the Places You'll Go. Like Ice Spice, she went viral on TikTok, but not for her ass, but for her song Yucky Blucky Fruitcake, a song where she's literally introducing herself to the world.
Doechii, why don't you introduce yourself to the class? Hi, my name's Doechii with 2 eyes. I feel anxious when I'm high.
Doechii's explosion past summer 2024 with Alligator Bites Never Heal was what the people who've been fans of her for years have called an inevitability. Even from those earliest days, she had an unmistakable sound, hailing from Lauryn Hill, Nicki, and MF Doom, but infused with her own distinct personality, consciousness, and perspective. Yes, she will talk about how much she likes to suck and fuck, but she'll also talk about her anxiety, substance abuse problems, and generally messy life.
Yeah, I think that it's important too. I feel like, especially in hip-hop right now, it should be reflecting real life situations and real things that are going on.
Though with the rise, there are always also mutterings. Even Sean C., who I do like and liked Alligator Bites Never Heal, called it.
But this is fire in terms of the way that she's approaching some of the songs, even though I do think it's scaring the bros ass music.
Why though?
Don't wanna have to turn a nigga guts into soup beans. Whoa. Okay, Doechii, we don't want to revert back into our old ways.
This time, not because she's being aggressively raunchy or anything, which she does get sometimes, damn spooky coochie, but Doechii is a black, dark-skinned, non-heterosexual woman.
I'm bisexual. That's cool.
She likes men sometimes, but she doesn't need them.
What's my biggest dating red flag? This is a huge red flag for me. All right. You know what's so crazy? I was gonna say men.
They got really mad when she made a joke, a little jokey joke, about how straight men are kind of a red flag. The reaction was kind of insane, actually. Whatever. As I mentioned, low-key Ice Spice's whole career started when men saw her and decided to watch her music videos on mute, but her and Doechii's stories would actually converge due to them both entering the public eye around the same time, both from virality on social media. Doja Cat had a similar rise and is also involved, which is, this essay is already very long and all over the place.
What gives you the ick?
Oh my God, so many things. Wait, how about you?
I hate like bad communication, like not being able to read a room. Yeah.
Ice Spice had been slipping and sliding for some time, and there were always people who vocally hated her, but 2024 would be the year of Doechii's explosion. I seized this. So a friend of Ice Spice, or perhaps ISIS, leaks some texts where our spicy one seems a bit skeptical about the Swamp Princess's seemingly sudden rise to fame. A lot of people have been leveling the industry plant allegations against Doechii, but this one hit kind of different because of a certain choice sentiment here. As much as I want Ice Spice to find her voice and recover from all this, Doechii quietly unfollowed her on all socials after that. In February of 2025, Doechii performed live at the Grammys, where she was nominated for Best New Artist, Best Rap Performance, and won the award for Best Rap Album. She was the third woman ever to win that award. In March of 2025, Ice Spice started posting her booty and rapping about it again. She's still eating oats. She gained back that weight. Yay. Doechii shakes her ass too, you know. She's had stuff done. She's been open about having surgery, though she hasn't really specified where. Many people suspect it's her booty, but she won't tell. Real or fake, it's hers, and she shakes it like anyone else. She does other things too, suck and fuck, you know, that's among those things. But you know, when she talks about that, I don't know, I guess I just believe her. And you see, that right there is where I intended to end the Doechii section, and start making my way to the conclusion. I've made my point. People like Doechii more because she has a personality. She's three-dimensional, is what I thought. Authenticity and three-dimensionality is the key to freedom, is what I thought. That's how I intended to end this section. But then, as tends to happen, when I write things for a long time, and they drag on, things kept happening.
What do you think about New York?
Well, I was born here.
You were born here? And you've always lived here?
Yes.
Have you traveled a lot?
Yes.
Could you live anywhere else?
What I will say, to quote my favorite problematic fave for a second, Orson Welles has a quote where he talks about how the difference between a happy ending and a tragedy is in where the story chooses to end.
Il est moins le quart, monsieur.
Both the Red Shoes and Dancehall Queen examine a problem that transcends nation and time. It finds new clothes and manifests itself differently depending on the setting, but the real enemy that led Victoria to her downfall is the one that Marcia contended with and used to her advantage as well. Dancehall Queen is an uplifting film with a happy ending, while The Red Shoes is a tragedy. But as I've been suggesting here time and time again, I think it's entirely because of where they choose to end their stories. When I first was properly introduced to Doechii, I saw her performing at Tyler's music festival, Flognaw, and she was absolutely ripping up the performance. And then when I went to the comments to see if anyone else was as gobsmacked by the show she was putting on as I was, Everyone else was more interested in talking about her butt. The original tweet I saw is gone, but they were ripping her apart because she decided to perform without pants on. In fact, she tweeted joking in response to how much people were just obsessed with not what she was doing, but making all kinds of moralistic judgments about how she chooses to use or not use her body. But whatever, Twitter's just glorified 4chan now, it's whatever. She was ripping it up and that's awesome. I hate y'all, I really do. In spite of how we have recorded evidence of how long Doechii's been out here, just doing her thing out of raw passion, they kept calling her an industry plant. A word that's become about as meaningless as woke or DEI.
Are the most matrix. It's the most matrix. Even my baby agree. Like, it's the most matrix music out. Like, if there was a album for the matrix, like the society that the people created, it would be Doechii.
There was a strange thing where people were conscrewing a lyric from Denial is a River as some kind of transphobic dig, something that doesn't really make any sense if you actually read it or see her explaining it.
The problem was that you cheated on me. You also could have let me know up front, you know, what your style was. I'm bisexual. That's cool. I've dated a bisexual man. No problem.
It's different when it's a man.
Let me know what it is up front.
Yeah. So you can make your decision. Yeah.
Let me know what it is up front. I'll accept you for who you are. It doesn't really matter.
Or watch the music video, which eventually came out.
Turns out the girl was really a dude.
Man, there have, at every step, always just been lots of people who just really hate Doechii. And the reason keeps, like, jumping around. I saw someone bring up a clip from one of her old YouTube vlogs from when she was like 16.
I wish somebody would try to push me today or drag me today. Not today, not Doechii, no.
And try to drag her for being racist against Asians. And it's like, okay. You could make that argument, sure. You might have a point there. You know, racism against Asians is as invisible as misogyny. But like, why? Why are we bringing up a clip from when she was 16, talking about a fight she had when she was 8? What are we trying to accomplish exactly? This year, she released her song Anxiety, which used the instrumental from that famous pop song. I like that famous pop song too, you know, but I just do not comprehend the visceral reaction people online had to it. It's just, I mean, if she posted mid, she posted mid. It's not my favorite song either, but it isn't. Then she releases that remix of that one song from The Weeknd. People went livid. Doechii's been making music that sounds different her whole career. She's never exactly been one to stay in one's lane. Something I wouldn't know anything about. But, and again, it's completely fine if you aren't vibing with it. But, what did it? What really did it for me was when a video got leaked of her at the Met Gala, yelling at a member of her team to hide her with an umbrella before she came out with her outfit.
Another one, right there, and another one. And another one. Another one. Another umbrella. Excuse me.
And you know, that's not good. Maybe not the coolest thing to be yelling at your employees. Sure.
Everyone, oh, Doechii rant? Oh, dude, don't get me started on that bitch. Hey, don't get me started on that bitch. Don't get me started on that industry plan. Fuck Doechii, the umbrella clip pissed me off. What an entitled, unintelligent piece of shit she is, bro. She deserves, bro, I'm not joking, bro. Stop listening to her music. Cardi and Abel, why would you give her a feature on a remix? She shouldn't have cleared it. She's just the worst. She's a piece of shit. She stole someone that I used to know. She makes no good music. She's horrible.
If it was just one, or two, perhaps even 3 of these non-incidents, non-controversies. I wouldn't put on my woke DEI cap. I was ready to do my little hoorah song about how if Ice Spice finds her voice, she might be something. But boy, I'm beginning to get the suspicion you all just hate black women. Like, I mean, I knew. That was the whole point. That was the whole backdrop, the whole premise through which this entire conversation, as long-winded and all over the place as it is, was grounded. The policing of black women's bodies, throw in the usual brand of black existentialism. But the way how public opinion has so quickly been shifting on Doechii frightens me. Aiden, we've never exactly taken that fellow very seriously. But en masse, I think what Doechii is doing, has exposed a certain wall, I believe, on what people are and aren't fine with black women doing. I remember the knot in my throat when I watched Degeneracy, which prompted me to make this. They made a few videos clarifying their case, and I tried to give them a certain benefit of the doubt, even though if you're watching it, I don't know if they really deserved it. Because I don't think people, even now, realize just how invisible all of this is. At the very base of our society, ingrained into the words we speak, into how we engage and interact with our art, and the people who make art. How we engage with people. We truly just hate black women. It's bigger than the butts, you know. It's bigger. In spite of everything, all the movements, Lil Kim, Lady Saw, Nicki, Ishana, Marcia. I'm not even getting into all that Megan Thee Stallion stuff right now. Or Halle Bailey. I need to finish this video before you bastards continue proving me right. But in spite of everything we've spoken about so far, have I found myself back on that damn beach? There's something so existentially frightening to the male gaze when a woman moves as though she doesn't need it. There's something existentially frightening to white society when black people move within it as anything other than commodity for their consumption. Counterculture is co-opted. Divergence is diffused. The majority leads the other to exist. The dancer and the spectator. The performer and the audience. Just to exist, just to breathe, as oneself is punished, eaten, flattened, and killed. Dying in the eyes of the viewer. I figured out why I'm making this.
You saved my life, man.
Shit.
By upholding and promoting the timeless principles that define great art, we can contribute to the restoration of its transformative power and its ability to inspire and provoke genuine reflection. The practical life of the world's underclass is extremely influenced by abstract ideas of misguided social critics of upper-class backgrounds.
Andy Warhol is one of the most perplexing artists of all time. I kinda love and hate him. I stumbled upon and slightly got lost in the Andy Warhol rabbit hole when I was 17, in my gap year. I wanted to learn everything about everything, and I wanted to become a better artist, so I inevitably got acquainted with who is considered maybe one of the most notable faces of postmodernism in art, Mr. Andrew Valhalla. His silkscreen paintings, experimental films, and multimedia projects sought to marry the rising world of consumerism and celebrity culture with the world of high art, asking where the line lies in the first place between these cultures.
Because everybody paints the same picture over and over again anyway, so...
So you could have stuck with the soup tins and the Brillo boxes?
Well, just a soup can.
What was the interest to you then in that Campbell's soup tin? What gave you the idea of doing that?
Oh, well, I used to eat it every day. I still do, so...
He created spaces for oddball artists like himself to throw ideas at the wall and undoubtedly defined the meta that all art still functions under to this day, for better or worse, in the Western world. What you're consuming right now, this sort of hybrid sociological, experimental, historical, diary, comedy, ironic, hyper-sincere YouTube video essay, is something that exists because Andy Warhol's mainstream fame effectively removed the divorce people had in their minds between these disciplines, forcing art, all art, in the Western world to redefine itself.
When first the flush of a newborn sun fell on the green and gold, our father Adam sat under the tree and scratched with a stick in the mold. The first rude sketch that the world had seen was joy to his mighty heart, till the devil whispered behind the leaves, "It's pretty, but is it art?"
Art has always meant different things to different people across different cultures. Much of what is considered great innovations are considered such in the zeitgeist of the cultures and environments where those styles had not yet been tried or more accurately been accepted. Picasso famously lifted his whole thing from African art, but a Western audience unacquainted with that style saw it as novel. These were old paintings, old masks, old sculptures with spiritual, ritualistic, and just mundane meaning. Henri Matisse introduced Picasso to these sculptures, which immediately took him. When visiting the Trocadero Museum of Ethnology to further explore these strange works, he was quoted as saying, "A smell of mold and neglect caught me by the throat. I was so depressed that I would have chosen to leave immediately, but I forced myself to stay, to examine these masks, all these objects that people had created with a sacred, magical purpose, to serve as intermediaries between them and the unknown. Hostile forces surrounding them, attempting in that way to overcome their fears by giving them color and form. And then I understood what painting really meant. It's not an aesthetic process, it's a form of magic that interposes itself between us and the hostile universe. A means of seizing power by imposing a form on our terrors, as well as on our desires. The day I understood that, I had found my path." Picasso found his path in the words of others, and those words became his cubism. Those words became the avant-garde. The avant-garde emerged when Picasso painted what he saw. When those images were situated elsewhere, they were given meaning by that removal.
I want to do some anatomy stuff.
And
then I went out and bought some books that are about anatomy.
And then you started imitating.
Well, not really imitating, because, you know, but I use them as a source material.
So why'd you want to do anatomy stuff?
Because I felt like it.
One of Warhol's friends and collaborators was Jean-Michel Basquiat, who marked his soul on the walls of others.
This is Jean-Michel Basquiat, a Brooklyn-born 23-year-old of Haitian Puerto Rican descent, whose rapid rise from street graffiti artist to international art figure has been one of the cultural wonders of the 1980s.
In the late 1970s, he, a runaway teenager, roamed the streets of New York and painted graffiti on the walls of abandoned buildings, painting anonymous messages to his fellow street rats, drawing angsty self-portraits, and blending his expressionistic style with references to pop culture figures, cartoons, other artists, and motifs from Caribbean, Hispanic, and African American culture. You know, whatever was on his mind.
Since a chicken lays eggs, it's worth dollars, so it is not surprising that this crudely drawn chicken looks frightened.
He was half Puerto Rican and from a broken home. His mother, who got him into art, fell to mental health trouble when he was a child, and he got kicked out of his father's house when he dropped out of school. He wasn't making his art to become some great icon or anything, but just as a means of self-expression and connection to his community. But by the end of the 70s, he and other graffiti artists became celebrated as a part of a new wave of expressionism. Neo-expressionism.
What role do you think pop art has played in general in the development of art?
Pop art is as important as Dada is.
Do you feel you're like a son of pop art?
No.
Do you feel your work has any relation with it?
Compared to the great abstract expressionists due to his unmistakably distinct, intuitive style, he became a celebrity in the art world. He met Warhol, who was interested in him and his stuff, all in his early 20s.
And in the upper right corner, there is a reference to the return of the prodigal son and a drawing of the son's leg as he kneels to beg his father's forgiveness.
He continued to throw ideas quite literally at the wall, drawing from his world, his thoughts, his joys, his fears, then putting them in a gallery, displayed in art shows, bought and sold, written about in magazines, think pieces. Some who got his work.
What would you like to happen to you tomorrow, all of a sudden?
That question is sort of fantasy-oriented. It's very hard for me to answer it.
Either way, he made a lot of money.
Tonight after this really good meal, I want to go to the movies, so I'd see Taxi Driver, which is like my favorite movie, I think. And then when I got there, I put my $10 in the window. The lady disappeared for a minute and came back, gave me back my $10 and said, "No music, man, this is serious." So I was like denied entrance to a movie theater, and
Why?
Why? They said it was my appearance, that I looked like a bum.
Don't go to that movie theater.
Everyone wants someone to prohibit something.
Boss says you couldn't take a taxi.
Well, you couldn't take a taxi.
$10 and said, "No music, man, this is
Do you
serious."
feel comfortable with people?
An underground legend, an icon for the tortured black youth of today, a true champion of the avant-garde. He died at 27 of a heroin overdose.
These questions, though, they're like, I don't know, do you wish you had feet, or you wish you didn't have feet, or, how would you live without a head? I mean, they're very strange. To ask me if I feel comfortable with people or not. I mean, I don't know how to answer, because I feel comfortable with some people and don't feel comfortable with others, And I don't know. It's as if people were one thing, and I don't see it that way. It's all people being, one thing, and and I'm another thing. There's me and there's people. I don't see it that way.
Now his work sells for millions. I think my Picasso moment was when that banana got taped to that wall back in 2019. The stunt's been pulled a few times now, but that was the first time it really hit me that the work might exist outside of itself. It was so ridiculous, A guy took a fresh banana, duct taped it to a wall, and called it art. I think that was the first time that I consciously saw art discourse happening. Because obviously this was also stupid, right? But also, that was kind of the point. This is everything that is wrong with art today, right? Anything can mean anything if you just say it's some great statement. It's some grand narrative. And then it will make millions of dollars just because you decide it's worth that much money. That something as mundane as a banana can become art just because you put it in a gallery. And then you catch yourself. This is a lot of thoughts I'm having about something apparently so stupid. How did I allow myself to get so worked up about the banana? Is the banana art? I don't know. But I wouldn't be thinking about it as much had it not been taped to that wall, would I? Oh hell, that's the point, isn't it? Oh God. This is the art. Is me monologuing to myself about whether a banana is or is not art? Art?
Warhol is collecting between $10,000 and $65,000 a picture. But is he really making some hidden comment at our expense?
No, I just do whatever I do, just to get by.
I love the avant-garde. I breathe the avant-garde. The avant-garde makes me feel alive. But what is the avant-garde? That which avants the garde. But what is the garde? The garde must exist for the avants to guard. That is what makes the avant-garde. But I've always sort of rejected the notion of garde.
Would you consider graffiti mainstream art or mainstream culture?
Well, I don't understand what's the difference between mainstream. I mean, just like the gallery, I never wanted to be considered an alternative space. I don't understand really the meaning of that word.
I don't like the word pretentious for the same reason why I don't like the word normal.
We've had shows all over the world, and I think that a lot of people when we are known a lot as a graffiti gallery. I never really sought to be a graffiti gallery or marketed as graffiti at all. It's just art.
People have a way of calling art that they either don't understand or they believe has something's trying to prove pretentious. But I've always been a bit more disturbed by the normal.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
I have joked once that I don't look down upon the hero's journey story structure for being fascist, but for being boring. Hollywood is boring. I don't like seeing the same handful of actors doing the same damn things or reality being portrayed in this way I don't understand. That's disturbing to me. I like that which acknowledges how funky and three-dimensional reality is. I suppose we call that the avant-garde, to not blindly follow convention and even dare to comment on convention by virtue of your existence, by virtue of your form, by virtue of your structure, is avant-garde. I've always liked to embrace that, but there is something a little strange about that, isn't there?
People used to say all the time, there must be something about homosexuality that makes you more artistic, because there is such a huge, beyond excessive number of homosexual artists. But of course that isn't true. What is not true, that being homosexual makes you artistic. What is true is that being put in prison or being like kept out or being depressed. I mean, or being forced to observe.
The very premise of the concept of avant-garde, or at least the way I'm framing it, necessitates that some things or ways of being must be out of line. The sculptures weren't avant-garde before Picasso saw them and brought them into his world. The banana wasn't avant-garde before it was put in a museum. Basquiat's graffiti wasn't avant-garde before it left the eyes of his friends and entered the eyes of the critics. I've always said I love the avant-garde, that it comforts me. But why is that?
Why bother that mainstream music is getting increasingly more empty? After all, it's transgressive. Why bother that our museums are becoming soma-inducing light shows? It's transgressive.
I believe that American culture is obsessed with transgression, and to the degree that blackness remains a primary sign of transgression.
This thing affects me very deeply. As a cat, I have a considerable guilt complex because my kind have always brought suffering on your kind.
One could talk about American culture and mainstream culture as being obsessed with blackness, but it is blackness primarily in a commodified form that can then be possessed, owned, controlled, and shaped by the consumer, and not with an engagement in black culture that might require the one to be a participant and therefore to be in some way transformed by what you are consuming as opposed to being merely a buyer. And anecdotally, that to me is the difference between a young white male from the suburb who's consuming, black music in the form of rap and, who's wearing the same kind of clothes, but then in fact when he encounters a black young black male on the streets feels the same racialized fear and demonizes that person.
Because our enemies are not physical bodies. They're actually our family. They don't know it, and we don't always know it. But our enemies are not, they're not flesh and blood. And our problems are not flesh and blood, even though we think they are. I hope that I know that was very, I don't mean to sound as
I don't try to make these weird, I don't try to make these videos experimental. I don't try to make anything I make avant-garde. It just is that way because it comes from me. When it leaves me and enters the world, it becomes weird. I take things that are in my mind and use the things that I see and things that I hear and things that I experience and use them to communicate things to people. The things that I make become experimental because they enter a world of people. I realized my stuff was a bit strange when I started getting picked up by the algorithm, and it would come up and people in the real world would ask to see my stuff. And I wouldn't want them to. They might come away questioning my sanity. But there is a secret truth, maybe an evil truth. In my video about tourism, I used the beach as a metaphor to represent a lot of things. About the sort of existential crisis of Caribbeanness, maybe blackness as a whole, maybe a few other things. In the video, there is a line where I describe the beach as the outskirts of everything. That might actually be one of my favorite lines I ever wrote. It's damn poetic. I'm proud of myself. Maybe a bit too much. I probably won't be able to step foot in the US for the foreseeable future, but I wrote that line, and I'm proud of myself. It's a beautiful line, and I'm proud of myself. A beautiful line to describe the bleakest form of isolation. Real thoughts, real anguish, real hurt, real pain, made beautiful by being purged in me to be consumed by others. Like and subscribe.
Revolt! Revolt, you thick-skulled idiots! You have sweat your lives away for the bosses! The bosses! They ride around in limousines! Get the fuck off my car!
In order for things to give life, spread their energy to others, they have to give. To return life to the soil, a body has to die. Words have to escape one's mouth to be heard. Art has to be made to be seen. Even art in the process of becoming and reaching reality must go through a process of endings, purgings, death of an old self. I am very touched by Basquiat's story and connect to it in a lot of ways. I connect to his art. It lives on in others, but that is only so because it had to be brought forth. He got eaten. He was removed from his world and was subject to the eyes of the viewer.
Look, come on, man. Oh, man, you'll get killed up here.
Andy Warhol killed art. He killed art by destroying an idea of what it was, to open the minds of the viewer to radically new forms of art. He birthed art.
It's a paradoxical image, isn't it? It's blank, and yet it's extremely intelligent. It's frightening, and yet it's romantic in a way. It's all sorts of opposites combined in one image, but that is Warhol after all.
He didn't create anything. None of the styles he participated in or helped legitimize came from thin air. But he killed a way of being, I don't know if all the effects are good. I don't know if this video will be making me any money. And that's his fault. I hate that I think about money at all. I hate that the ideas that come out of my mouth have to be filtered through with the thought of commerce. If I want to comment on a video I watched that made me think about some things and critique it a little bit, I run the risk of it being construed as drama. I hate that kind of thing, but because I'm speaking into a microphone, everything becomes performance. Everything is eaten. I spoke about that video when I watched it at the time with people in the real world, but if I do that same thing on YouTube, because I have a microphone, and I'm posting this here, we call it a call-out. I try to interrogate my own hang-ups. I try to come closer to my own culture, find my way within the larger world. I've been told I'm an artist my whole life, so all I know is to express myself. This medium worked first, I guess. Now everything I say and think, I put into the video. Now we call that content. Every time African Americans come up with a new vernacular, a new slang, white people hear it, start using it, and call it brain rot. Every time a person in the public eye, a performer of any kind, does something, anything, it becomes discourse. It becomes a performance for the viewer. A singer talks about sex, she's destroying the youth. A singer talks about things besides sex, she's Harriet Tubman. Bodies exist in the material world before people do. Bodies are a part of people, and people are in bodies, but the bodies are what are seen and sold first. Packaged, branded, and advertised. We have all these words for these bodies. We kill people for bodies. We kill ideas for bodies. Flattening. Melting. Of course it claps. If an ass shakes in the forest, of course it claps. It's not like it's some sentient hovering thing that exists on its own. There's a person connected to it, man. The whole question is wrong. This whole framework is wrong. This whole structure is wrong. What am I trying to rationalize right now? What are we doing? What am I trying to prove?
Sexual behavior in the ghetto. JJ!
We're living through the rise of fascism and several ongoing genocides. And here I am talking about butts in a video on youtube.com while you sit there and drink soup.
I'm only interested in stuff that'll help the black community.
If it wasn't for stuff like that, there wouldn't be no black.
Do you think art can change the world?
Yes, and it already has.
Why? Elaborate on that.
I'm just gonna say now, I am far from a history buff.
Cook anyway.
The type of art that I am familiar with myself, or the definition of art that I am most familiar with, which is a source of escapism, I think that it gives people something that they could not live without. Rest in a sense that you can't achieve in any other way, shape, or form. I think that if art did not exist, humanity would not exist.
I've always listened to hip-hop, you know, I just never used to admit it to myself. In 2022, I could swear I was just listening to Playboi Carti for the memes, and then Spotify told me his song about domestic abuse was my 5th most listened to track of the year. In the very Beaver Cleaver-esque upbringing I had, I was told to stay away from music with vulgar lyrics. I dabbled in it anyway.
I might indulge. I'm not a drinker, but I might indulge.
Denzel Corey, some ASAP, a little Kanye here and there, X, little Hendryx, little Cole, some 90s stuff. I just didn't used to... hip-hop, dancehall, and violent video games were the cause of the aggression of the youth today, and I was as far from being aggressive as a turtle is from being a bird. Lo-fi was hip-hop, but it wasn't that hip-hop. But last year, I was in probably the worst mental state I've ever been in, and I found a sweatshirt. His music actually sounded like my soul. I've always liked old reggae, but struggled to listen to it casually because it reminds me of the beach. It reminds me of my own detachment. It reminds me of my fears about what it is that I'm missing, who I am betraying, what I ought to and ought not to be doing. I listen to old Italian music, and I forget about everything for a while. The underground hip-hop rabbit hole I fell down because of Earl reminds me of my relationship with the things around me, but not the detachment. It feels like a form of confrontation. My Summer of Misery last year had me spinning his music non-stop because it made me feel like even if so much was outside of my control, I wasn't running anymore.
Pedal to the metal, lost foot, and it was sugar in my gas tank. My cushion was a bosom on bad days. It's not a black woman, I can't think.
Maybe I shouldn't be thinking about it that deeply at all. But of course it's that deep. That's why I've always liked jazz. It captures my chaotic state of mind. There is comfort in disorder, I think. It's when all those disparate sounds come together to create something new and rich and wonderful. That's what we call jazz. That's what we call hip-hop. I never did get into dancehall though.
It's a Creole, I guess, of Europe and Africa. What I mean by Creole is, I mean a mix. The way that Africans speak French in Haiti, that's what I mean.
It's a paradoxical image, isn't it? It's all sorts of opposites combined in one image.
Trying to draw these straight lines leaves so much on the chopping board. It makes things so simple but so incomplete. When it's simple, it's definable, but in a world larger than itself, how does it define itself? Should it define itself? Maybe describe itself. We didn't always use words to describe ourselves. Much of that information wasn't written anywhere. We had to tell ourselves these things in different ways. Oral tradition, wood carvings, religion, dancing. No matter how much I tried to write words that describe myself in completion, I always go back to music. I go back to the cinema. I draw things. I don't know if they describe things in completion, but I feel reality for a moment. How do you prove that reality? Do you need to? I listened to Azucar a few hundred times, and I felt connected to myself. I felt like I felt a self that's existed in others, all around the world, across ages, across time. All people, all traditions, all at once, everyone who's ever been there. In their rawness, in their freedom of self. Then I had to return to the real world, feeling a bit stronger, a bit maybe more constrained, but stronger. I keep finding words to describe myself, they come close, maybe give comfort, but they're never complete. There are so many images in this world, and it forces you to reconcile with them. You have to, or you get eaten. Defined by others, sold by and to others. But maybe the boldest thing you can do in this world is dare to live in it as yourself. I believe in sexy's right to shake her fanny. But I also believe my opinion isn't important. It's interesting because I think art's a part of life. I think art is a part of how life changes. I think it's definitely a part of the process. I don't think it's everything, but I think it's, you need people to change the world, and I think you need art to move people in the direction of changing the world. Whether escapist or subversive, I think that art can manifest itself in different ways in different people.
I'm only interested in stuff that'll help the black community.
If it wasn't for stuff like that, there wouldn't be no black.
It's like there's
so many layers to me as a woman, and I'm gonna express them all the time. I'm never gonna box myself in like, oh, I'm only gonna talk about this. I'm only gonna this is real rap because you talk about that. That's not true.
People on the internet love to discredit female rappers and what they do. Specifically. Very niche. Like we don't do anything and we do a lot. We just have fat asses. Shut the fuck up.
Authenticity is in vogue right now, sure. But what does that mean when your body is wrapped up in the cannibalistic buffet of consumerist consumption? Ice Spice fell and Doechii rose in the year of Drake versus Hendryx, but people still invent reasons to put them down, all of them. People are craving authenticity again, but authenticity itself is a product. Culture has created these images of what blackness means, which all these figures have to grapple with in their own way, whether it be assigning yourself the role of savior, crowd-pleasing lover boy, baddie with a fatty, or anxious artist trying your best, in spite of everything. But all of these are bodies that ultimately cease to be yours when you're seen by others. Then they become the world's, and they become what the world makes them. Maybe to become beautiful. Maybe to uplift someone else. To crush someone else. To enrage someone else. To create think pieces and be consumed by the masses while they drink soup. Comment below, is anyone actually drinking soup?
Oh, I used to eat it every day. I still do, so.
Glowing on screens, reverberating through speakers. I don't think you win in this industry. I don't think you can ever completely escape your body. This world hates black women. This world hates black people. This world hates women. In fact, I think increasingly, this world hates people. We are living through the rise of fascism. Victories aren't won on mics, on screens. Like Lady Saw said, don't blame the subjugation of black women on Sexy Red. That's your government. That's colonialism. Femicide's been on the rise in Jamaica. That stuff runs deep. I'm not Ice Spice. I don't know her. I can't tell you exactly why she made that face on that stage. I can't tell her what to do. I can't tell you what to do. But I believe in her right to express herself. Or to get her bag. Same for Mars, yes, same for Doechii. In a world against you, you can't win on its rules. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Not appealing to Petit Bourgeois standards. Not try to look cool for the black kids. What are you trying to prove? Maybe the boldest act of resistance is to be yourself. Whatever that is. Whatever faces you. Don't let the bastards steal your joy.